So, we've all heard of the LEGO Movie, right? The 2014 critically acclaimed animated movie. And we're all probably aware of the sequel released in 2019, and the totally stellar one that I've never seen, the LEGO Batman Movie. Overall, with an average of 84% across both audience and critic scores on Rotten Tomatoes across the three movies, if you ask the average moviegoer to name all the LEGO movies, these are the three that they would name. But what if I told you there was a fourth movie? One so bad that we as a society have chosen to forget. One that got largely pushed aside in the grand scheme of cinema at the time. This movie is the one I'll be covering today. This one was called the LEGO Ninjago Movie. Now, I can hear you wondering to yourself, what makes this one so terrible? In order to fully understand where I'm coming from, it's important to understand where I stand as a Ninjago fan. I first heard about LEGO Ninjago when I was in first grade. My best friend introduced me to it. I eventually stumbled upon it on my own on Netflix. At the time, there was only the first 2 seasons out, and I watched them both. My friends and I would play ninjas at recess and pretend to do Spinjitzu and fight off the Serpentine. I was Kai, and my friend was Lloyd. Looking back on it, we probably looked stupid, but hey, it was fun. We eventually grew out of that phase, but we still kept watching the show. Season after season, they just kept getting better. After Cartoon Network canceled LEGO Chima, a Season 3 was made. Season 3 showed that they weren't afraid to make a bunch of 6-year-olds cry. I'll admit that I was one of them. Season 4 was just awesome. TGaming173 is a great video on Season 4 and why it's a masterpiece. You should go watch it. Basically, it reveals loads about the backstory. Kai gets a love interest. Zane is alive. Oh, thank God, my heart.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
And we get to see loads of other elemental masters and just, this season was so good. My favorite one is Season 5. I was still a kid at the time of release, and I co-created a club with some friends called the Ghost Hunters. That was our new fixation. We would run around pretending to have powers like the ninja did, and we fought ghosts. But then when my friends and I saw that they were both our favorite little brick ninjas, and they were fighting ghosts on screen, we pretty much lost our minds. This is also when the team was most diverse, in my opinion. Zane was a full-on robot, Lloyd was possessed by Moro, Cole became a ghost, Nia was becoming the water ninja and unlocking her true potential, and Kai and Jay were the two normal ones that balanced out the team. Around Season 6 and 7 is when I stopped watching, as I was growing out of the target demographic, but I would still watch the new episodes when they came out. So imagine my surprise when they announced they were making a movie! It's hard to capture how excited I was for the movie. I went to see it in theaters with my parents and... What is this? Who is this? Why is he back? Why do they all look different? Now is when I should mention that this movie is almost entirely de-streamed from the previous 7 seasons. The only thing it borrows is the basic premise and character names. It entirely undoes pretty much all of the development that happened in the 7 seasons. After the movie came out, the showrunners kept making new seasons as if nothing ever happened, but they switched the character designs to be more like the movie. Why? But they did follow with things that happened in the movie. They revived Garmadon after his sacrifice in Season 4, so it's hard to tell whether or not this movie is even canon to the show. After a quick Google search, I learned that it's not canon to the show, which explains a lot of things. But it's just kind of confusing with all the previously established lore. Now that you understand where I'm coming from, I think it's a good time to start talking about the few things I liked about this movie. So, as is tradition with the LEGO movies, the animation in this is just breathtaking. There are some parts in this movie that I had a hard time remembering it was a movie and not stop motion. These models are so detailed that you can see each individual scuff mark, little scratch, even the lines where the molds meet. While I'll forever feel nostalgic for the original animation style, I'll have to admit that this animation style is absolutely incredible. It's kind of a staple for the LEGO franchise at this point, but every time I see it, it just amazes me. Okay, I'll admit that the music in this movie slaps. I'm pretty sure whatever money they had left over after making the movie was spent on licensing songs. This movie has some songs like It's a Hard Knock Life, which was used in a very comedic way.
Why don't I play you a song? Perhaps it will speak to you.
I don't know if this was supposed to be funny or not, but it was pretty funny. My personal favorite song that they played was I Got a Name by Jim Croce. Very good song, and wasn't expecting to hear that in the movie.
Please not Jim Croce, please not Jim Croce.
I watched this movie with a very big fan of his work, so that was cool to experience. The show's theme also had a brief cameo as Lloyd's ringtone, but I think they should have used it fully at some point during the movie. The character redesigns are probably one of my biggest problems with this movie. Why? I don't see why this was needed. You could argue that this was to help with the photorealism, but let me tell you something crazy. The pieces used on the original models are real LEGO pieces. Not only that, but they're in the movie! Lloyd's old design is in the movie a few times in billboards and stuff, so why don't they stick to it? Apparently they kept the new designs to help the newer fans transition from the movie to the show, which makes sense, but they wouldn't have had to do any of that if they just kept the design. While I'll admit that the ninjas could have used a bit of a change since they've been largely the same for 7 seasons, but they could have made it so it was more of a subtle change with an explanation. Take Lloyd growing up for an example. That was a nice, fresh change that had a story explanation and made sense. You'll hear me talk more about Lloyd growing up later in the video. They also changed the voice actors. I'm not a big fan of that. Maybe it's just because I'm so used to the original voices, but I don't really like them. Lloyd's voice being a bit deeper is something I kinda liked at the beginning of the movie, but it kind of became stale. They could have just taken Jillian Michaels' voice and pitched it down a bit. That's another gradual change as opposed to one that's just kind of instant and jarring. As for the other voices, they were just kind of weird. Zane was portrayed almost too robot-like without the movie ever giving an explanation for it. Sensei Wu was voiced by Jackie Chan, which makes sense given his previous history of roles. One thing I was really surprised to hear when watching this movie is how they're all in high school now. And the wise words of Michael Rosen.
I don't like it very much.
Lloyd had this perfect arc in the first 2 seasons where he was often treated as a kid by the ninja and everyone around him, but ultimately has to skip out on growing up and being a teenager for the greater good. This was such a good way to bring Lloyd up to speed with the rest of the show and not have it be too confusing or out of touch with the craziness of the show. But this all gets undone when they're high schoolers now. Suddenly all that Lloyd had to give up just becomes irrelevant. He reminds me quite a lot of Spider-Man. It's one of those outcast, but nobody knows what he can do stories, which there's actually quite the amount of. In other words, Lloyd's character is just a cheap Lego version of Spider-Man. Nobody likes him, but he ends up saving the day in this crazy superhero adventure. In this movie, Lloyd assumes the role of leader in the group. He's the one to make all the decisions, and the one that's seen as the leader of the group. This is the exact polar opposite of his character in the show. In the show, Lloyd was the young kid. He was the one who was realistically at like a 3rd grade level with everything, since he went straight from being like 9 to a full-blown adult. This makes the ninjas Lloyd's mentors. This works so well because each character has their own reaction to Lloyd joining the crew. Each character has to learn and adapt to now having to be masters to their own student. But in this movie, it's the exact opposite. Lloyd just assumes the role of leader, which makes all the other ninjas seem like they're just not talked about enough. I'm pretty sure Cole had like maybe 5 lines in this entire movie. With all the ninjas, Wu, and Garmadon, that's a total of 8 main characters the show has to puppeteer. That's just way too many. Maybe if they made this a solo adventure about Lloyd, it could have worked better, but I can only see that ending up even worse with the fans. Going back to the show once again, Garmadon was a great character. He had a good backstory being brothers with Wu and son of the first Spinjitzu master, which, for the most part, his backstory is kept the same. Garmadon was bit by the Great Devourer when he was younger, and that's what made him bad. This also gives him a good conclusion in Season 1, but since the Serpentine aren't even mentioned once in this movie, he never gets that backstory. He never gets any backstory, even. We get little bits of info from not Misako, and that's about it. Garmadon was also finished off in a great way in the show. Garmadon was saved by Lloyd in one of the best endings I've ever seen. Garmadon wasn't even the true evil of the show. He was taken over by the Overlord towards the end of Season 2. When Lloyd beats the Overlord, Garmadon is able to come back to his human self and start helping out the ninja. In Season 3, Garmadon is able to act as a mentor to Lloyd and give him some fatherly lessons, and ultimately help him destroy the Overlord once and for all. In Season 4, Garmadon makes the ultimate sacrifice and ended up helping the ninja in a great way that finished off his character. In this movie, I feel like the creators took both good Garmadon and bad Garmadon and merged them. I'm gonna call this one... what was the word? Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. Anyway, Garmadon in this movie is evil, but he's also a good guy. The pacing for this character was done kinda poorly. One second he's listening to Jim Croce with his son, and the next he's abandoning him to go terrorize the city of Ninjago. They could have kept the original arc with the Overlord. Maybe found him in that temple they went to get the ultimate weapon in. That could have been done and it would have been better. Another character I didn't really like in this movie was Sensei Wu. He went from being this wise old mentor and somebody that's really just doing this whole sensei thing for a really long time to being a comedic relief character. Wu just flat out pretends to die for half of this movie during a really unnecessary plot. I also don't like the fact that he has powers. I'm fine with him using Spinjitzu in the show because he's the son of the ultimate Spinjitzu master, but the fact that he can use all of the ninjas' elemental powers, or how it's implied, it just makes me kinda angry with this movie. The ninjas don't unlock their elemental powers until like 30 minutes before the movie is over, so part of me wonders why he doesn't do all the work. To sum up Master Wu in this movie, here's kinda what he does. He shows the ninjas he's better than him but refuses to help, goes along with the ninja to find the ultimate weapon, fights his brother, is blatantly racist.
I call it the cage monkey.
And then dies for half of the movie. Having so many main characters is what makes Ninjago work as a TV show and not a movie. Think of any movie. Now count the number of main characters. Go ahead. I'll guarantee you it's around 5. Now for a TV series, let's take Stranger Things 4 as an example. You have Dustin, Lucas, Erica, Will, Mike, Elle, Max, Nancy, Robin, Steve, Jonathan, Argyle, Eddie, Hopper, Joyce, Marie, and I could keep going if I wanted to. Anyways, that's 16 characters. I'll admit it's more than Ninjago has, but it's an example. You can't cram all of that into a 2-hour movie, so they make it a TV show. This allows them to have episodes centered around different characters, or you have different groups of characters doing different things. In a movie, you can't do this. You usually have maybe 4 or 5 main characters in a movie that have their own little arcs in the movie. But the writers for the movie in this scenario had to cram a whole season's worth of characters and arcs into a 100-minute movie. This movie follows a problem that I see a lot of kids' movies fall into, and that's extending the plot far beyond what it needed to be. The ninjas really didn't need to go through this whole 45-minute part where they go with Garmadon to find the ultimate weapon. It becomes even more apparent when you learn with the characters that the ultimate weapon was inside them all along. Ooh.
The ultimate weapon is inside of you!
It was kind of anticlimactic, to say the least. A lot of kids' movies could be like 45 minutes at the most, but to make it longer and get more money, they write in the extra 30-minute subplot that it really doesn't need to be in the movie. One thing that this movie copies from its predecessor is that the LEGO universe exists inside the human world. This works when it's a movie that's entirely LEGO, but once you start referencing things that happened in a TV show, they just don't make any sense. Like, seriously, who is this kid? Does he have any other significance to the story? Why is Sensei Wu working in an antique shop? Is he Sensei Wu? Why is he mocking the poor kid? We can add that to the list of things Sensei Wu did in this movie. It's not even mentioned that we're in a universe that exists in a different one in the bulk of the movie, only at the very beginning and the last scene. They could have made the exact same movie and not included the parts in the human world, and it would have flown a bit better in my opinion. Probably my biggest problem in this movie is that the ninjas seemingly don't even know Spinjitzu. Sensei Pooh mentioned it by name towards the start of the movie, but the ninjas seem to never actually use it. It's kind of a running gag among the community that the ninja just get nerfed more and more every season. When the series first started, the ninja could do this thing called the Tornado of Creation, where they all do Spinjitzu, crash into each other Beyblade style, and then they can use their combined powers to create literally anything they want. It's kind of funny that they don't use it past like Season 1, Episode 7, but they continue to use Spinjitzu. That's what made the show uniquely Ninjago. But in this movie, they never once use Spinjitzu. Sure, they use their powers a little bit, but they never jump up, kick back, whip around, and spin once in this movie. I'm now just kind of realizing that I forgot to write an outro for this. Oh well, so I'll fire one off really quick. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video. And subscribe so I can pass NASA as usual. And I'll see you in my next video where I'm not flying to NASA headquarters and 30,000 feet in the air. Okay, bye.